Morning came too quickly. Ja had stayed up late, thinking about how to help Hyun without showing her real skills. As she walked to the training hall with him, she offered what seemed like simple advice. Krell relies on his upper right arm for power hits, she said quietly. He leaves his lower left side open when he swings. Hyun looked at her with surprise. How do you know that? Jia shrugged. I watch people. The training hall was packed. Word of the duel had spread fast. Cadets from all years came to see the human fight the Draveri prince. Commander Tarok stood in the center of the mat. This is an official training duel, he announced. First to 3 scoring hits wins. No permanent damage allowed. Krell stepped onto the mat, stretching all 4 arms. His friends cheered loudly. Hyun walked forward, looking small next to the alien. Begin. Commander Tarok stepped back. Krell attacked immediately, rushing forward with his upper arms raised for a powerful strike. Just as Jia had noted, his lower left side was exposed. Hyun ducked under the swing and landed a quick punch to that exact spot. The crowd gasped. A human had scored first against a Draveri. Krell's yellow eyes widened with shock, then narrowed in anger. He came at Hyun more carefully this time, using his lower arms to block while attacking with his upper arms. Hyun held his ground well, but Krell was still stronger and faster. The Draveri landed 2 quick hits, making Hyun stumble back. From the sidelines, Ja watched intently. She noticed Professor Jin, a quiet human teacher, watching her rather than the fight. She quickly looked away and pretended to be nervous. On the mat, Hyun was tiring. Krell landed his 3rd hit, ending the match. But instead of stopping, the Draveri prince knocked Hyun to the ground with a hard blow. That's enough. Commander Tarok stepped between them. Krell backed away, smiling, just making sure the human knows his place. As Hyun limped off the mat, Jia helped him to a bench. You did well, she said. Better than anyone expected. Thanks to your tip, he winced, holding his side. But it wasn't enough. Later that day, the first-year cadets had 0 gravity training. They suited up and entered a large chamber where the gravity could be turned off. Their task was to move through floating obstacles to reach the other side. This should be fun to watch, Krell said loudly. Humans are known to get sick in 0G. The gravity switched off, and the cadets floated up from the floor. Most aliens adapted quickly, using their natural abilities to move smoothly. The Draveri used all 4 arms to push off obstacles with perfect control. Jia moved carefully, making small adjustments that looked clumsy, but got her through the course without drawing attention. Halfway through, she heard a gasp. Hyun was spinning wildly, his suit jets not responding. He crashed into a wall, then another. His face was pale inside his helmet. Suit malfunction. The instructor called. Get him out. But before anyone could reach him, Hyun drifted toward a sharp edge of one of the metal obstacles. He couldn't control his movement. Acting on instinct, Jia pushed off from her position. She calculated the angles perfectly while making it look like a desperate move. She collided with Hyun, changing his direction just enough to miss the sharp edge. As they floated to the exit, Jia noticed something odd about Hyun's suit. The control panel had been tampered with. Someone had damaged it on purpose. Professor Jin helped them out of the chamber. Quick thinking. Cadet Kim, he said, looking at Jia with curious eyes. Just lucky, she answered. Later, back in their room, Jia examined Hyun's suit while he rested. The damage was clever. It would look like a malfunction, but it had been done deliberately. Someone tried to hurt you, she said. Hyun sat up. Krell. Probably. Jia put the suit down. Be careful. This isn't just about pride anymore. That night, after Hyun was asleep, Jia sent a coded message to Earth Command. Asterisk situation escalating. Draveri targeting humans. Request guidance asterisk. The answer came quickly. Asterisk maintain cover. Mission priority. Protect yourself only asterisk. Gia stared at the message for a long time before deleting it. For the first time, she wondered if her orders were right. She looked at Hyun's sleeping form and made a silent promise. She would protect him, even if it meant bending her mission rules a little. 1 month into the academy term, Commander Tarek made a big announcement during morning assembly. "The time has come for the Crucible," he said, his voice echoing through the hall. "This annual competition tests everything you have learned. Teams will face real challenges with real dangers." Excited whispers filled the room. The Crucible was famous, a 3-day test in the Academy's largest simulation arena. "Current teams will remain the same," Commander Tarek continued. "However, each team may add one more member." Krell immediately looked around for another Dravari to add to Team 5. But before he could speak, Moro stepped forward. "We choose Hyun Lee," she said. Krell spun around. "What? The human? Why?" Zanny's green eyes flashed. He showed skill in the zero-gravity training before his suit was damaged. "And he fought well against you." Gia hid her surprise. She hadn't expected the aliens to stand up for Hyun. Krell growled but didn't argue. The truth was, their team had done better than others in recent exercises, often following directions that Gia had suggested in her quiet, hesitant way. That afternoon, teams gathered to plan for the Crucible. Hyun joined Team 5 with a nervous smile. "Our first task is survival equipment," Zanny said. "Each team gets basic supplies, but we need to choose our special items." While they discussed options, Jia noticed a small drone hovering near their table. It wasn't one of the Academy's regular security drones. She pretended to reach for a water bottle and accidentally knocked it off the table. As she bent to pick it up, she quickly scanned the drone. It had no Academy markings. "I think we should take extra medical supplies," she suggested when she sat back up. It seemed like a weak, cautious choice, but Jia knew from experience that injuries cause most mission failures. Krell wanted to take extra weapons instead. The team argued, with Moro and Zani eventually siding with Jia. Krell wasn't happy, but he accepted the decision. As they continued planning, Professor Jin approached their table. "Team 5, he said. "You're scheduled for a practice run in Simulation Room C." The practice run was a simple rescue mission. They had to find a dummy, injured cadet in a simulated mountain range and bring it back safely. As they entered the mountains, Gia studied the terrain. She saw the best path immediately but stayed quiet, waiting to see what the others would do. Krell took the lead, choosing a direct route up the steepest part of the mountain. After 20 minutes of difficult climbing, they were stuck on a narrow ledge. "This way is blocked," Moro said, pointing to a rock slide ahead. "We'll have to go back and find another way," Zanny added. Krell looked angry. His plan wasn't working, and time was running out. Gia saw her chance to help without raising suspicion. I noticed a small path back there," she said, pointing to a spot they had passed. "It looked like it went around this section." Hyun backed her up. "I saw it too. It might work." Reluctantly, Krell led them back to the path Jia had pointed out. It was narrow but clear, winding around the mountain instead of going straight up. "Good eye, Kim," Zanny said as they made faster progress. They found the injured cadet dummy and were heading back when the simulation suddenly changed. The sky darkened and the ground shook. "Earthquake scenario," shouted Hyun. A large crack opened in the ground between Krell and the rest of the team. Krell lost his balance and slid toward the edge of a cliff. Without thinking, Jia moved. She calculated the angle, force, and timing in an instant. With a leap that looked desperate but was precisely controlled, she grabbed Krell's lower arm and braced her foot against a rock. It looked like a lucky save, but every muscle in her body was working with trained precision to hold the much heavier Dravari. "Pull him up," she called to the others, making her voice sound strained. When they were all safe, Krell looked at Jia strangely. "You saved me." "Lucky timing," she said, looking away. That night, Earth Command finally responded to her message about the security breach. Maintain mission parameters. New intelligence suggests high-level threat. Trust no one. Observe only *. Gia stared at her tablet. The orders were clear, but things at the academy were getting more complicated. With the Crucible approaching and unknown forces watching, she felt caught between her duty to Earth and her growing connection to her team. Something would have to give soon. Night fell in the arena. Team 5 found a small cave to rest in. Zanny's injuries were minor, but Hyun kept looking at Jia with questions in his eyes. "We should reach the center tomorrow," Krell said, studying the map. "If we go through the mountain pass." While the others planned, Jia slipped outside to check the area. She needed a moment alone to think. Her actions during the ambush had been too skilled, too precise. She had revealed too much. A soft voice came from behind her. "You're not what you seem." Jia spun around to find Hyun standing there. "I don't know what you mean," she said. Hyun stepped closer. "The way you moved today, the way you fired that weapon, that wasn't luck." He paused. "I know, Jia. I know because I'm like you." Before she could respond, a loud alarm blared throughout the arena. Red lights flashed in the trees. "Emergency lockdown," announced a mechanical voice. "All cadets return to entry points immediately. This is not part of the exercise." Jia and Hyun ran back to the cave. The others were already gathering their things. "What's happening?" Moro asked, her thin face worried. "Unknown," Zeni replied. "But we should." A massive explosion cut him off. The ground shook and dust filled the air. When it cleared, they saw that the path back to the entry point was blocked by fallen rocks. "We're trapped," Krell said. Jia checked her wrist computer. Communications are down too. Suddenly, the cave entrance darkened as a figure appeared. It wasn't a cadet or an academy instructor. The being was tall and thin, with gray skin that seemed to absorb light. Its eyes were black with no whites, and it held a weapon unlike anything they had seen before. "Humans," it said in a cold voice. "I found you at last." Krell stepped forward. "Who are you?" "This is Academy property." The gray being aimed its weapon at Krell. "Step aside, Draveri. We have no quarrel with you. We only want the humans." More gray beings appeared behind the first one. They all had the same cold eyes and strange weapons. "The Void Collective," Zeni whispered. "They were supposed to be extinct." The lead being laughed. "Not extinct. Hidden. Waiting. Watching your kind spread across the stars, taking what was ours." Jia's mind raced. The Void Collective was an ancient species mentioned only in old records. Earth Command had files on them, warning that they might still exist. "Why do you want humans?" Hyun asked. "Because you are the only threat," the being answered. "We have studied all species. Only humans hide their true abilities. Only humans prepare in secret." The being fired its weapon at the cave ceiling. Rocks began to fall. Team 5 scattered to avoid being crushed. In the chaos, Jia made a decision. Her cover was blown anyway. The mission had changed. She reached to her wrist and pressed a hidden button on her health monitor. A small compartment opened, revealing a tiny silver device. She placed it behind her ear and felt it connect to her nervous system. "Neural link activated," said a soft voice in her head. Jia's body seemed to change. Her movements became fluid and precise. Her eyes focused with enhanced clarity. The combat neural implant that all Earth Special Combat operatives received was now online. "Hyun," she called. "Release Protocol 10. To everyone's surprise, Hyun also touched his health monitor. His posture changed instantly, becoming balanced and ready. "Jia, what's happening?" Moro asked, her voice shaking. "No time to explain," Jia said, her voice now confident and commanding. "Stay behind us." The Void Collective beings raised their weapons. Jia moved before they could fire, faster than seemed possible for a human. She knocked the nearest one down and took its weapon in one smooth motion. Krill, Moro, and Zani watched in shock as the shy, weak human girl transformed into something else entirely, a perfectly trained combat machine. "They are not what they claimed," the lead being said. "See, the humans have deceived you all." Jia stood ready for battle, her cover gone, her true abilities now visible to everyone. There was no going back now. Jia Kim stood at the entrance of Stellar Academy, her small bag clutched in her hand. The massive doors towered over her, made of metal that came from a planet she had never heard of. Around her, aliens of all shapes and sizes pushed past, some with 4 arms, some with scales, some twice her height. "Move, human," growled a large creature with blue skin and sharp teeth. He shoved her aside easily. Jia stumbled but caught herself. She kept her eyes down and said nothing. This was exactly what she wanted, to be seen as weak and not worth noticing. The academy hallways gleamed with light that bounced off the polished floors. Maps floated in the air, guiding new students to their rooms. Jia touched one and watched as a blue line appeared, showing her the way to room 507. "Hey, another human." A voice called out as Jia entered her assigned room. A boy with black hair and friendly eyes sat on one of the 2 beds. "I'm Hyun Lee. Looks like we're roommates." "Jia Kim," she said quietly, placing her bag on the empty bed. Hyun watched her with interest. "You don't look like military material. No offense, but you're so small." Jia smiled softly. "I know." What Hyun didn't know, what no one at the academy knew, was that Jia had trained since she was 5 years old in Earth's secret special combat division. Under her loose academy uniform, her body was a weapon, every muscle perfectly trained. The thin arms that looked weak could break bones in 3 places with a single strike. "The Draveri cadets already have a betting pool on which human will drop out first," Hyun said with a frown. "They're saying none of us will last more than a month." The Draveri were a warrior race with 4 strong arms and tough skin like armor. They were known across the galaxy as natural fighters. "Let them think what they want," Jia said, unpacking her few belongings. A loud bang shook their door as someone hammered on it from outside. Hyun jumped up to open it. 3 Draveri stood in the hallway, their upper arms crossed and their lower arms resting on weapon belts. The one in front had dark red skin with black markings, a sign of royal blood among their kind. "So these are the new humans," he said, looking at Hyun, and then at Jia with glowing yellow eyes. "I am Krell, son of War Chief Dracus. I came to see the fresh meat." Jia kept her face blank as she bowed slightly in greeting. She noted how Krell moved, how he balanced his weight, where his defenses would be weakest. Old habits from her training. "The orientation combat class is tomorrow," Krell continued. "Try not to embarrass yourselves too much." His eyes locked on Jia. "Especially you, little one. You look like you would break if the air system blew too hard." His companions laughed, a harsh sound like grinding metal. Hyun stepped forward. "We'll hold our own." Krell snorted. "Humans, the evolutionary mistake of the galaxy." He turned to leave but paused. "The Academy accepts all species, even the weak ones, but that doesn't mean you belong here." After they left, Hyun sat down heavily on his bed. "Great, day 1, and we've already got the attention of the worst bullies." Jia sat at the room's small desk and switched on her personal tablet. A message appeared, encrypted with Earth command codes. Asterisk Operative Kim. Maintain cover at all costs. Learn their techniques. Reveal nothing of your true abilities. Earth is watching asterisk. She deleted the message and looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, counting on her to complete her mission. "Don't worry about the Draveri," she told Hyun. "Sometimes being underestimated is an advantage." As the Academy's lights dimmed for night cycle, Jia lay in bed thinking about the coming days. The weak girl act had worked perfectly so far. No one suspected that behind her innocent face and quiet voice was one of Earth's deadliest weapons. Tomorrow, the real test would begin. The first week at Stellar Academy passed quickly. Ja spent her time watching and learning. She listened in classes, ate quietly in the dining hall, and kept her eyes down in the hallways. All the while, she was studying the aliens around her, noting their movements, strengths, and weaknesses. On the 7th day, all new cadets gathered in the main training hall. The room was huge, with high ceilings and walls that could change to match any environment. Today, the floor was covered in soft blue mats. Attention! The sharp voice cut through the chatter. A tall Draveri officer walked to the center of the room. His 4 arms were covered in battle scars, and a deep cut ran from his right eye down to his jaw. "I am Commander Terok," he said. "Today is your first assessment. Each of you will show us what you can do." Gia stood in line with the other humans. There were only 7 of them among hundreds of alien cadets. Hyun stood beside her, looking nervous. "The tests will measure your speed, strength, and fighting skill," Commander Terok explained. "You will be ranked by species since each race has different natural abilities." The assessment began with speed tests. Cadets ran across the hall while machines recorded their times. The Vorian species, with their long legs and light bodies, finished fastest. The heavy-bodied Gronk were slowest, but still faster than any human. When it was Jo's turn, she ran at a careful pace, fast enough to pass, but slow enough to stay near the bottom of the human rankings. She could have beaten most of the aliens if she tried, but her orders were clear. The strength tests came next. Cadets lifted weights and pushed against force panels that measured power. Krell, the Draveri prince, lifted a weight that made the machine groan. He looked at the humans and laughed. "Watch this, weaklings," he called out. With all 4 arms straining, he lifted twice what was expected for his age. For her test, Jia lifted only the minimum weight required to pass. Her arms shook a little, not from effort, but from the control it took to appear weaker than she was. The last test was combat skills. Cadets faced training robots programmed to test their abilities without causing real harm. Hyun went before Jia. He fought well for a regular human, landing several good hits before the robot tagged him out. The other aliens nodded with some respect. He had done better than expected. When Jia's turn came, she stepped onto the mat with her head down. The robot circled her, its sensors scanning for threats. Jia made herself look scared. She could have disabled the robot in 7 different ways within the first 3 seconds. Instead, she dodged clumsily, threw a few weak punches, and let the robot tag her out after a respectably average performance. Commander Terok frowned as he marked her score. Barely passing, Cadet Kim. After all tests were done, the rankings appeared on the big screen. As expected, Draveri led most categories. Humans were near the bottom, with Jia ranked lowest among them. Krell and his friends pointed at the screen and laughed. "Look at that. The little human girl is the weakest cadet in the entire academy." Hyun stepped forward angrily. "Leave her alone." Krell's yellow eyes narrowed, defending the weak one. How touching. He poked Hyun's chest with one of his lower arms. "Since you're so brave, human, I challenge you to a training duel tomorrow." The hall went quiet. Everyone knew that a human couldn't win against a Draveri in a fair fight. Hyun swallowed hard but nodded. "I accept." As the crowd broke up, Jia returned to her room and checked her tablet. Another encrypted message waited. * perfect performance. Operative Kim. Continue observing. Special interest in Draveri fighting techniques. Your low profile is your best weapon *. Jia deleted the message and sat on her bed. She thought about Hyun facing Krell tomorrow. He would be badly hurt if the duel went forward. But helping him would risk her cover and her mission. For the first time since arriving at the academy, Jia faced a real problem. Her orders were clear, but watching an innocent person get hurt went against everything she believed in. She needed a plan. The next morning, the academy was buzzing with news. A Confederation peacekeeping ship had been attacked in the outer sectors. No one knew who did it, but rumors spread quickly. They say it was a new alien race, a Vorian cadet whispered in the dining hall. No one has seen them before. Commander Tarak called all cadets to the main hall. His face was serious as he stood before them. "Listen carefully," he said. "Due to the attack, the Academy is raising security levels. All training will now include combat against unknown enemies. We need to prepare you faster than planned." The cadets looked at each other with worry and excitement. Real combat training meant using real weapons and facing real danger. "You will be placed in mixed teams," Commander Tarak continued. "Each team must have different species to build cooperation and use varied skills." Jia watched carefully as the teams were called out. When her name came, she was surprised. Team 5, Krell, Moro, Zani, and Kim. Hyun looked at her with wide eyes. "You're with Krell. That's bad luck." Jia nodded, but inside she was thinking fast. Being on Krell's team would let her watch the Draveri fighting techniques up close, exactly what Earth wanted her to learn. Krell was not happy when Jia joined Team 5. "The weak human," he complained. "We'll have to protect her the whole time." Moro, a tall Vorian with light blue skin, shrugged her thin shoulders. "Orders are orders." The fourth team member, Zani, was a Tekkan with metal-like skin and eyes that glowed green. "Perhaps she has hidden talents," he said in a clicking voice. Krell laughed. "Like what?" "Hiding really well." Their first team exercise was that afternoon. They entered a simulation room where the walls could create any environment. Today, it showed a dark forest with tall trees and strange plants. "Your mission," said Professor Jin through the speakers, "is to reach the marked location while avoiding enemy patrols. This is stealth practice, not combat." The forest was thick and hard to move through. Krell pushed ahead, using his 4 arms to clear a path. Moro moved silently behind him, while Zani's metal skin reflected the little light that came through the trees. Jia followed quietly, watching how each alien moved. She could have navigated the forest better than any of them, but she stayed in character, stumbling occasionally and moving slower than the rest. Suddenly, a loud alarm sounded. Red lights flashed through the trees. "Simulation change." Professor Jin's voice was urgent. "Enemy ambush. Take cover." This wasn't part of the planned exercise. Something had changed. Robot fighters dropped from the trees, armed with stun weapons. They moved fast, surrounding the team. Krell froze, surprised by the sudden change. The robots closed in. Jia saw what was happening. If she did nothing, they would all be stunned and fail the exercise. But if she showed her real skills, her cover would be at risk. She made a quick decision. Moving to Krell's side, she pretended to trip and fall against him, pushing him behind a large tree just as a stun blast hit where he had been standing. "Get down," she shouted to the others, making it sound like panic rather than a command. As the team took cover, Jia pointed to a dense area of plants. "There, we can hide there." Krell started to argue but stopped when another blast hit near his head. He nodded and followed her direction. The team crawled through the thick plants. Jia deliberately led them in a pattern that made it hard for the robots to track them. To the others, it looked like lucky choices, but each move was carefully planned in Jia's mind. They reached the marked location without getting hit. When the simulation ended, Professor Jin met them at the exit. "Interesting," he said, looking at Jia. "Your team was the only one to complete the mission after the ambush change." Krell seemed confused. "We got lucky," he said, but he looked at Jia with new eyes. That night, Jia checked the academy systems using skills she wasn't supposed to have. She found something strange. An unauthorized transmission had gone out just before their exercise change. Someone had triggered the ambush from outside the academy. She sent another message to Earth Command. * possible security breach at Academy. Unknown forces may have infiltrated systems *. As she waited for a reply, she wondered who else was watching from the shadows and what they wanted. The day of the Crucible arrived. 16 teams gathered at the entrance of the massive simulation arena. The structure was as big as a small city, with different environments and dangers inside. Commander Tarek stood on a platform before them. "The rules are simple," he said. "Each team must reach the center of the arena. You will face programmed challenges and other teams. Weapons are set to low power, but they will still hurt. If your health monitor reaches red, you are out." Team 5 checked their equipment one last time. They had food, water, medical supplies, and basic weapons. Each member wore a health monitor on their wrist that showed green, yellow, or red. "Stay together," Krell said. It wasn't a suggestion but an order. The team nodded. A loud horn sounded, and the doors to the arena opened. Teams rushed in, each taking different paths into the unknown. Team 5 entered a dense jungle area. The air was hot and wet. Strange sounds came from the thick plants around them. "Moro, take the lead," Krell said. "Your eyes are best in this light." The Vorian moved ahead, her light blue skin almost glowing in the dim jungle. Zani followed, then Hyun and Ja, with Krell guarding the rear. They moved quietly for an hour, avoiding the sounds of other teams fighting in the distance. Ja's training let her move silently despite the fallen branches and wet leaves on the ground. She pretended to stumble occasionally to keep up her act. "Water ahead," Moro called softly. They reached a wide river with fast-moving water. "We need to cross," Krell said. "There's a fallen tree downstream that might work as a bridge." As they moved toward the tree bridge, Jia felt something was wrong. The jungle was too quiet now. She scanned the trees on the other side of the river and saw a slight movement, the reflection of light on a weapon. "Wait," she whispered. The others stopped and looked at her. "I think there's someone across the river." Krell frowned. "How would you know?" Before she could answer, energy blasts shot from the trees. Team 5 scattered for cover. "It's Team 3, Zani shouted, returning fire with his weapon. More blasts came from different directions. It was an ambush. 3 members of Team 3 crossed the river, cutting off Team 5's escape route. "They're using real weapons," Hyun said in shock. His health monitor blinked as a blast grazed his arm. "These aren't academy training weapons." Ja's mind raced. These were illegal weapons smuggled into the Crucible. This wasn't just competition. Someone wanted to seriously hurt them. A blast hit near Zani, sending him rolling down the riverbank. His health monitor turned yellow. "We need to retreat," Moro called. Krell fired back at Team 3 but was pinned down behind a large root. "There's no way out." Jia saw Hyun trying to reach Zani. Another blast hit near him, too close. Without thinking, she moved. "Cover me," she shouted, breaking from her hiding spot. She ran in a zigzag pattern that looked random but was carefully planned to avoid the firing lines. She reached Hyun and pulled him down just as a blast passed over their heads. "Stay low," she told him. "When I say move, run to that large tree." Hyun looked confused. This wasn't the shy, weak Jia he knew. Jia picked up a rock and threw it far to the right. When Team 3 fired at the sound, she yelled, "Now." Hyun ran for the tree while Jia provided covering fire with perfect accuracy, hitting one of Team 3's weapons and disabling it. She made it to Zani next, helping him to his feet. "Can you move?" The Tekken nodded, his green eyes studying her with new interest. Working together, Team 5 managed to break away from the ambush and find a hidden spot in the dense jungle. "How did you know they were there?" Krell demanded, looking at Ja with suspicion. "Lucky guess," she said, avoiding his eyes. What Jia didn't know was that a small damaged drone had recorded her movements during the escape. Someone was watching. Someone who had seen her move in ways no ordinary human should be able to. The Crucible had just begun, but Jia's secrets were already starting to unravel. The cave erupted into chaos. Jia moved with incredible speed, dodging energy blasts from the Void Collective weapons. Hyun fought alongside her, his movements equally skilled. "What is this?" Krell shouted, his yellow eyes wide with shock. "What are you?" There was no time to answer. Jia flipped over a fallen rock and kicked a weapon from a gray alien's hands. She caught it midair and tossed it to Zani. "Use this. Aim for their center mass," she ordered. 3 more Void Collective soldiers pushed into the cave. Jia touched her wrist computer, activating a shield that blocked their fire. "Impossible," one of the gray aliens hissed. "Humans don't have this technology." "There's a lot you don't know about humans," Jia replied, her voice steady and confident. Working together, Team 5 fought their way out of the cave. Outside, the arena was in flames. More Void Collective ships hovered above, dropping soldiers into different areas. "They're attacking the whole academy," Moro said, pointing to the main buildings in the distance. Jia scanned the area with her enhanced vision. "They're targeting the data centers and weapons storage. This is a raid for information and technology." Krell grabbed Jia's arm. "You will explain what's happening. How can you fight like this? How did you hide such skills?" Hyun stepped between them. "We don't have time for this now. We need to reach the command center." Jia nodded. "Follow me. I know the fastest route." As they ran through the burning arena, Jia's mind raced. Her cover was completely blown. Earth Command would be furious. But saving lives was more important now than keeping secrets. They took shelter behind a fallen tree when more Void soldiers appeared ahead. "We need answers," Zany said, his green eyes fixed on Jia. "Who are you really?" Jia took a deep breath. "I am Operative Jia Kim of Earth's Special Combat Division. I was sent to study alien fighting techniques and gather intelligence without revealing human capabilities." "But why the deception?" Moro asked. "Why pretend to be weak?" "Because Earth has been hiding its true strength for centuries," Hyun explained. "I'm from a different division. My mission was to watch other human operatives and report back." Krell's face showed anger and confusion. "So everything was a lie. You could have beaten me easily in combat." Jia nodded. "Yes, but that would have exposed what humans can really do." "But why hide your abilities at all?" Zany asked. "Because of what happened to us long ago," Jia said. "Before humans joined the Confederation, we were nearly wiped out by an advanced species. They saw our potential and decided to eliminate us before we could become a threat." "The Void Collective," Moro whispered. "Yes," Jia confirmed. "They attacked Earth 300 years ago. We barely survived. After that, humans decided to appear weak and technologically behind, while secretly preparing for their return." A loud explosion from the main academy building interrupted them. "They're breaking into the secure data vault," Jia said. "They want information about all species, especially humans." Krell looked at Jia with new eyes. "So all humans are like you? Combat trained?" "Not all," she answered, "but many more than the Confederation knows about. We have operatives throughout the galaxy, watching and learning." "How did they not detect your neural implants and enhanced abilities?" Zany asked. "Our technology is designed to be undetectable," Hyun said. "Earth scientists developed methods that don't register on standard scans." Krell stood up, his 4 arms flexing. "I still don't trust you, but those gray monsters are the bigger problem now. What's your plan?" Jia showed them a map on her wrist computer. "The Academy has emergency defense systems that aren't in the official records. If we can reach this control room, we can activate them." "You even know the Academy's secrets?" Moro asked in surprise. "We make it our business to know everyone's secrets," Jia said. "It's how we've survived." As they prepared to move, Krell looked at Jia one more time. "When this is over, human, you and I will have a real match. No more pretending." For the first time since arriving at the Academy, Jia smiled a real smile. "I look forward to it."